And you just take care of it.
Well, actually, that's.
Did you see the deer hunter in Minnesota?
Yeah.
Got an alligator.
Oh, yeah.
He got an alligator?
Yeah.
Pretty
With
much
a deer
right after
tag?
you get, if you're going south.
He called the DNR and said, hey, can I kill
Right
this
after the
thing?
park.
He said, yeah, absolutely. So he shot the
Well,
alligator.
actually, it's by ski before you play.
I didn't know there were
Yeah, it's further
alligators.
north than that, right? North of, yeah.
Supposed to be. Well, they definitely won't live through the winter. That's for sure.
Okay, guys, let's call the meeting to order. I'd like to call to order the Town of Delafield Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. If you'd all rise and join me in the pledge.
Where are the flags? Oh.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, is there anybody in the audience, doesn't look like it, who would like to address or have comments on something that is not on the agenda? Hearing none.
I would like to make a comment as a citizen.
As a citizen,
Yeah.
better make it fast.
I just want to say thank you to the deputies, police, agents, troopers, everybody that helped out last week. Special thank you to the trooper that was stationed on Whitetail Run and helped my family feel safe. So thank you to all you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Ditto.
Okay, then moving on to the approval of the minutes of the October 27th Town Board meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the October 27th meeting. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Action on vouchers submitted for payment. There is no amendment to the budget that I'm aware of, so we'll just go to accounts payable and payroll.
Make a motion to approve checks 64057 through 64059 and 64068 through 64106 in the amount of $136,355.75. And make a motion for payroll dated November 13th, 2020 in the amount of $62,177.75.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the accounts payable and payroll as stated. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Communications. Mixed-use ordinance for general update discussion only. There's a meeting Thursday. Another community workshop meeting, work group meeting between the county, the Thomas family, and representatives from the community. Theoretically, it's the final meeting. There's several things on the table that are very, very close to being finalized. Jason hopes to have them finalized at Thursday's meeting, and then we will move forward to the meeting in here, which is more of an open meeting with placards and that, and Jason has his people already working on those, subject to the conclusions of Thursday. And I'm hoping that takes place either just before or just after Thanksgiving. And then once that goes, which is just an open house, then it comes to the planning commission, and we start moving forward. So, election results updated. I think we're all disappointed. Dan, you want to? I thought it was run very efficiently, and I thought the whole staff and under Dan's guidance did just a fabulous job. I've heard absolutely no complaints and all praises.
Lucky you.
Yeah,
I heard a few, but that's all
and
right.
that's the way it should be.
Yeah. So just an overview, we had 92% turnout in the town.
Nice.
4,347 total absentee voters, 2,037 of those voting early in person. So we were busy throughout the whole process. Again, like Ron said, all polling locations actually ran smoothly. The mornings there were some long lines here and at Dayspring, but they got through the people pretty quickly. I think the time change had a lot to do with it, being Sunday, that people were just up early. I do want to thank Karen and Lori from our staff who did a great job helping with early voting, with getting materials together, just did an excellent job. And then I wanted to also especially thank Marilyn Krause, Jan Buckley, and Nancy Nazelia. They put in a lot of hours beforehand helping with early voting and also with getting some of the paperwork and things together as well. So great job to all staff, and no more elections this year, so
Good.
let's hope the recount goes smooth.
Why don't you fill them in on the status of, or the request from the county regarding the recount?
Yeah, so the Waukesha County has asked that we utilize our poll workers to do our own recount. It will be, they're gonna hold it at the Expo Center in Waukesha County. So I've followed up with a few extra questions. One, who's paying these poll workers? Last time we had a recount, the county, and I believe the state paid them directly. So I wanna see if we're responsible for paying, if we're gonna be reimbursed for that. And what the process is for that, and then also, I haven't heard a timeline for when that will begin, so, hopefully, they were busy today, I think, with canvassing, so hopefully I should hear back from them in the next couple days, so. Yeah, and then just referendum numbers, you can see it, 40% of the voters who voted no, or voted yes, 55% voted no, we had 5% that didn't vote on it, so.
So is that what the under means? They didn't vote on it?
Yep.
And
Yep,
one person
under-
overvoted?
And then one person voted for both, I guess, so, yeah. Disappointing, and I'll let the board decide what they want to do moving forward. I think we had discussed some budget options that we're looking to move forward with. And then maybe, presenting this at a later, election, possibly a partisan primary. That way we have some time, beginning of the year, to really get this advertised, maybe inserts in tax bills, that sort of thing, but we won't have an August election until 2022, so something to think about.
Have you gotten much feedback?
On Facebook, there's a group that's very adamantly in favor of it, and I see their comments on our page and on the newspaper page. So I think if we can tap into that group and maybe help us when we want to do this again, I think it'd be great to utilize a different group that's not directly related to you guys and to the town itself, so, I don't know who.
Well, it's just really disappointing because what I've heard is from people is the way the question was worded, it didn't say roads and police. So that, and then I feel that we should have advocated a little bit more and kind of gone against what Eric had said and done. I mean, the city of Delafield, they advocated and they got it passed. Arrowhead High School, theirs passed by 69 votes. They sent out postcards and did stuff. I mean, I just feel like there was a little bit more that we could have done to really say, hey, this is about dedicated police protection and this is about roads. I mean, hindsight's 20/20, but it's just
Well, I think
frustrating.
it's hard to go against. Eric and Dan and I had a meeting, we went through the state statute. And the state statute says you're not allowed to advocate.
Just know the city of Delafield, they did a lot of advocating, so
Oh, I can believe it.
Well, I know the city of Delafield's police chief went out.
he was
and
on Facebook
actively-
Live and stuff and did stuff, so.
Yeah, they also had a neighborhood group meeting, which from what I understand, not very many people attended, but they have their own, dedicated police service to where they could kind of pitch this as a, defunding the police.
Yeah, I
type
think
of
that
thing,
carried a
and
lot of weight. They preached that you were defunding the police force. The failure of our referendum is not gonna result in the defunding of the police, of the sheriff's department. We were trying to increase the funding of the sheriff's department.
No, I mean,
So-
the people that understood what they were voting for, did a good job, but I mean, there were just a few people on like Nextdoor and stuff who just were like, we don't need police force in Delafield, we don't, So I think, in our sheriff's reports, and I think we just need to do a better job of, we kind of sugarcoat how safe Delafield is. We need to, maybe be a little bit more, talk about the issues that we don't want to talk about, that, why we need the dedicated police service, I mean, there was, the Amazon pirates on Imperial Drive yesterday, I mean, it's not good.
Well, regarding the highway department, when we did the budget back in September, and the board approved it, we approved two budgets, one with the referendum passing, and one with the referendum failing. And the highway funds, the 250,000, were in that budget as debt. So So the budget we have right now, we're still maintaining, I believe we adamantly have to maintain our highway plan that Tim and Don came up with, because we're so far behind the curve on road maintenance. So we're just doing it by debt now, which is kind of ironic, because we can raise our levy next year to compensate for the full debt service payment of the $250,000 that we asked them to approve anyhow.
Right.
So the levy's gonna go up
It's gonna go up regardless.
regardless. And people don't understand.
I agree with Ed's comments about, you know, pushing this a little bit more, but, you know, we also approved the resolution in late August, and so, I mean, the time frame to do it
It was tight,
small,
yeah.
and it was tight. The city hadn't even, or the same time frame as we did, basically, but,
Yeah.
you know, they're operating a staff that's, you know, 10 times larger than ours, so they have the ability to do it. But if we know ahead of time, we can get these, whatever flyers.
Well, yeah,
or
we gotta
whatever
get the
things.
community groups and the flyers and stuff really to get
Yeah.
this thing. But I mean, you're always gonna have a segment of the town who just don't wanna see their
They don't
taxes
wanna do
raised.
it.
Right.
They don't, they
I mean, we
just,
saw that with the fire station in this building, so,
it took, what, 3 or 4?
yeah, almost 20 years, so.
And the biggest thing I heard from people is that the verbiage of that last sentence, that recurring on a continual basis, people thought we were gonna ask for 450,000 every year
You're kidding.
additionally,
Yeah.
yes, and
It's the
Um,
verbiage, it's,
and we've tried changing it with Department of Revenue, that is what they forced us to do. I've sent them 3 different copies, and they redlined every one to that exact verbiage. So that's disappointing as well, I think the city of Delafield, because they had a 3 or 5 year levy increase, theirs was a little easier to comprehend than how the state had us verbiage our referendum questions, so.
Well, I talked to Kent about it. Their levy increase was for 5 years. And 5 years it grandfathers. And they expect, it was what, for $1,750,000 or something?
I don't think it was for 300 and some thousand, I think, it was for 3 positions.
Okay. Anyhow, he expects growth to compensate for within the 5-year period.
Is there any opportunity for us to find out from residents why they voted for or against it? I mean, is there a way for us to ask? Because it'd be nice to know,
Well,
or,
I've asked, I haven't pushed the issue, but when residents do ask or they have questions, their number one issue is the verbiage at the end of the referendum. That's what I've heard the most from,
okay,
and that's what I've heard from our poll workers too, when people were asking questions. It's
Okay.
the main reason, I think. So, I mean, we're gonna be stuck with that no matter what, but if we know early enough that we're gonna do a referendum, we can put things out either in the tax bills or send out mailings, you know, maybe twice, maybe we do it once in March and once again in July, so that it's fresh in people's heads. Because relying on, you know, the website or Facebook or,
Yeah, people don't check, there's a certain segment that don't go to social
Well,
media or don't go on.
We did try, Dan and I did contact several homeowners associations, and we did address one.
Yeah.
But a lot of homeowners associations were not meeting because of COVID.
Right, no, I mean, that was an added wrinkle to the whole,
So,
you know, we weren't able to go door to door and able to.
and the school district referendum passed, but in the town it didn't. So it
Well,
was Heartland that kind of
Yeah,
took
that's
the load
the
on that,
mentality of the
so.
town.
all right, moving on with the Waukesha County Sheriff update, which we have.
I'll just let you guys come up here.
Good evening.
Evening,
For those who don't know who I am, I'm Lieutenant Chad Niles from the Sheriff's Department. I think you already had in your packet the monthly stats. Was there any questions about that to discuss at all? No?
No.
Okay. So the traffic study that we did this last month, as a result of the citizen complaint and then my talking with the board after the meeting back at the start of October, I put that in front of each of you prior to the start of the meeting here, but we'll go through the highlights of it. And I guess get some input from you folks if there's something on your end that you want us to continue to address or whatnot that way. So back on the 14th of October, here at the board meeting, one of the residents that lives over off of Highway C I believe it was during public comments, made some concerns or addressed some concerns as far as the speed, commercial motor vehicles. In a subsequent phone call with me afterwards, explained that she was concerned about the traffic crossing for the pedestrians for the state park as well. So taking those concerns and then speaking with you folks afterwards, we conducted a study. We took patrol deputies from the various shifts that were off of the contract that patrol this area as just general road patrol, as well as our contract officer here. And they sat out there for a range of times, anywhere from about a half an hour up to a couple hours, that they sat on different parts of Highway C between 18 and 94. As a result of all of that, this packet in front of you is what we came up with. So under the portion of the deputies being out there, we did, losing track of my stuff here, 29 patrols total between the 3 different shifts that we have, and the hours are listed there. During that time, there was just over 30, almost 31 hours that they spent out on that area monitoring the traffic. The overwhelming majority of them said that the majority of the vehicles coming through that area are not of what would be considered excessive speed, where they would consider doing traffic stops on them. Majority of them actually said that they saw speeds around 50, which is, I guess, would be common for that road, being that it is 45. It is, again, above the speed limit, but not typically at 5 miles over that an officer stops a vehicle, unless there's other mitigating circumstances or violations that they see. They did have a few traffic stops, as you can see on the first page. There's 11 total that they conducted during those efforts, and I listed the speeds of the violators that they cited during that time frame. So you can see that we did have pretty high speeds, 30 over in one case. That's not normal on other roads, I guess, but it being a rural country highway as this one is, and it's wide open on that stretch right along the state park there, it's an easy spot to speed up coming down that hill going southbound, I think, which is what we talked about after our meeting. So that's what we had for results that way. The others that did warnings, I believe, were in the mid 50 to 60 range. Another portion of that we noted, the commercial motor vehicle specifically as part of the concern, they did note that nobody saw any violations above 50 for the big trucks coming north and south through there. I think from past practice of similar concerns that I've addressed with other areas of the county, dump trucks tend to look like they're going faster than they really are when you actually got a radar gun on them. Similar concern up on Highway C up in Stone Bank area earlier this year had the same thing. People were complaining dump trucks were flying by them, and they weren't doing but between 25 and 30 miles an hour in a 25 zone. So it does give a different impression that way. So based on that, the only thing that was noted really from a commercial motor vehicle standpoint is on the top page, or top of second page of that paragraph there that's discussing one of those pedestrians that was crossing Highway C at the trailhead. And as you can see there, that was actually the jogger's problem, or fault, I should say. Listening to music or whatever podcast that they were doing, weren't paying attention to the highway and got pretty close to getting hit by a dump truck out there that was coming through. And if it wasn't for the quick motions or evasive actions by that driver, that person would have probably been in a serious trouble. So that was the only note as far as commercial vehicles that was concerned, besides the fact that they were not speeding, as was addressed initially in the complaint. The next portion is the data. So we have, if you've seen them before, those speed trailers that go on the side of the road with the radar displays that are on them. The newer versions of those, which is what we used here, have a actual speed counter and a computer inside of them. So every vehicle that goes by displays the speed. It may flash depending on how the deputy has it set, but it is recording all that data for us. So as you can see in the second portion of, the second page, there was 22,325 vehicles that passed by in a 10-day span that we had that out there. So it is a pretty heavily used road. But then underneath you can see that 85% of those vehicles were just over 50 miles an hour or lower. Okay, so that means 15% would be above that 50.32 miles an hour. At the 50 percentile, they were exactly at the speed limit. So half the vehicles out there are at or below the speed limit. The maximum recorded speed on the unit was 70 miles an hour, which happened 3 different times over those 10 days. And I did mention before that this equipment was deployed on C at Lillian Court Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's north of the park entrance?
Mhm.
Okay. So over those 10 days, there was 22 hours of the, 24 hours in the day. 22 out of the 24 hours in the day, throughout 10 days, we had vehicles that were at 60+ miles an hour. So it wasn't just targeted to say rush hour in the morning or rush hour in the afternoon. It was pretty much day and night all across, except for 2 hours in the third shift time frame or overnight, where there were not vehicles that were 60+. Of those vehicles, there was 33 total in 10 days, total over the 24 hours, but all 10 days, that were at or above that 65 mile an hour limit. And none of those, as it says there, were the commercial motor vehicles. That equipment does have photograph capability with it. So while it's not of quality where I can get a license plate off of it and go and speak to the driver, it gives us pictures of the vehicle so we can say it's a motorcycle or a dump truck or a semi or a sports car or whatnot like that. So that's how we're able to differentiate and say there wasn't any commercial vehicles that were at those speeds. Overall volume that's listed, under the 45 mile an hour, so you had about 46 an hour. 50 up to 55 miles an hour is about 52 per hour, and then that 56 to 64 range was 2 per hour on average. The next part I looked at was the crash data from the last 5 years, from October to October, from 15 to 20. In that time frame, there was 22 total crashes that were investigated and we conducted reports on, and that's not including up by the interchange with 94, and is not including down by the stoplights to C. This is just that the stretch in between those two sections, because those would skew the data, make it look worse that way. So of those, as you can see, that averages out to about 1 crash every 3 months. So for, I think is about 2 to 3 mile stretch, that's not a lot, which is good. Out of those 22 crashes, there was 11 injuries total. One of which was that fatality we had earlier this year. That's the next line down. It was drug related. The driver had drug related issues, or that was to cause that accident. And that was the only fatality that we've had in that stretch in the last 5 years. And it was drug related. Out of those 11, 3 of the passengers in that vehicle were from that specific crash. Speed and those types of issues were not part of that. It was specifically the drugs that was what caused that accident and their impairment. Commercial motor vehicles, there was 1 crash with a straight truck, like a box truck, like a delivery truck type of a vehicle. That specifically was one where the driver claimed that somebody coming the opposite direction actually swerved into their lane, so they swerved off the road and hit a pole. It wasn't related to speed or those issues, and the other vehicle is not in part of it, so that's all we have is what that driver said at the time. They could have been doing something else and just blamed it on that, we don't know. In total of those 22, there was 2 alcohol related, 2 with distracted drivers, like texting or some other kind of distraction. 1 injured pedestrian, and just to note that was close to the trailhead that we were talking about before. However, it is not related to the trailhead. That was a person in the dark at night wearing all dark clothes that the driver did not see in time to be able to swerve to get around them. So that person was walking in traffic wearing black clothes or dark clothes in the darkness of night, and that's why that was that happened. 4 were speed related. 1 had an injury recorded, and then 8 of them had teen drivers involved. So in the 10 days, as it says on page 3 there, we had 30 plus vehicles that were at that 20 mile threshold above this posted limit. As I mentioned before, there was 22 out of 24 hours where we did have people doing that 15 and over. So what we recommend, I guess, is at this point, we will continue patrolling Highway C as we normally do as much as possible, whether it's within the contract hours or outside of that. This study was a little special, I guess, that this is my first one of these doing this. I've been heading the Traffic Safety Commission for about 1.5 years now for the county, so I'm seeing this type of activity or reports like this that occur, but this is not something we normally do. So this is, I guess, something extra that we gave this way. So at the top of, or excuse me, at the end of the traffic speeds paragraph, I mentioned the BOTS grants. That's those click it or ticket enforcements that you hear on the radio and in the advertisements and that. So we'll do what we can to maybe target some of the vehicles in that direction for those efforts, but can't guarantee that they'll be out there because they get scattered across the county for those efforts as well. As far as traffic speeds, I guess I would leave it up to the board as far as if you want to take any action or not. You have the data in front of you as far as what we saw out there. There are people speeding, but I guess to the extent that we can't put somebody out there 24 hours a day to stop those random 1 or 2 cars per hour, we can.
What action, it's a county road, so the town doesn't really have authority to take any action on the speed limit, does it?
So, correct. So what I've dealt with some of the other issues like this, again, with the Traffic Safety Commission when we meet, we can give a recommendation, I guess. The Traffic Commission could as well, at the county level, but ultimately it is up to the county. It's my understanding from my experience with the other issues of this sort, the county board actually ends up being the ones that change the speed limit for that roadway. So
Does this data indicate a change is necessary?
my personal opinion, I guess, if I can give that, I don't think it will. No.
I don't think they'd support it based on this data.
No. I think just, again, doing more enforcement as we have the deputies available to do so, could help with that. As far as the commercial motor vehicle traffic, like I said before, as far as, the complaint or concerns from the resident that lived in the area, we can't find anything to justify that they are zipping through there as she was concerned about. I think it's probably the sheer volume of those vehicles, and that's something that I think it would be between the board, probably the county board and town of Genesee, given that most of that traffic we believe is coming and going to and from Wolf Paving, getting up to the interstate to go to other projects that they have. So there's nothing on that end that we were able to observe, I guess, that would give us an opinion to make some kind of a change to commercial vehicle traffic that goes through there. As far as the pedestrian crossing, I know this is a hot topic, I guess, with the state park itself. As we talked about before the meeting started, there's some concerns, I guess, with management over there that maybe they are gonna potentially look at having the county do something on their part for them with the signage out there. As it's mentioning the pedestrian caution portion, again, with traffic study, with checking the accidents that we had in that area, and then with what the deputies saw while they were out there monitoring traffic, we didn't see anything that said there was a major issue at that crossing, but as we've talked about offline before, it's the near misses that you can't always justify or point out, because unless you're sitting there all day long.
Very nice report.
I was say last thing on the crossing side of it, there was some discussion, I think, with us outside of the meeting, as well as Debbie Kubishek's talked to the state park about possibly putting up some type of a warning sign or those flashing signs at the trailhead crossing there. That would probably be something that, again, it would be addressable as far as a request to the county, either by the town or by the state park and their management as far as the concerns there. But that's, to my experience on that topic, the county's not gonna just put them out there based on what we have for data, because they do similar studies to this on their part whenever they're gonna look at changing stoplights, stop signs, speeds, things of that sort. So that would be a possible improvement to the areas to put up a warning sign or flashing signs there to help with that trailhead, but again, that would be probably, I guess, a discussion on your part if that was something you wanted to request from them.
Very nice report.
Yeah, thank you.
for doing it.
Sure.
Is the woman that was the resident that raised the issue, can we send her a copy of this report?
Yes, I was going to. I didn't know if she'd make it tonight or not, and so I'm gonna be talking to her again on the phone.
Yeah, I would like her to get a copy.
Yep. Yep, so we've conversed by phone and through email too, so, she'll get a copy of this as well, just to see on her part of, as far as what we did find out there.
And Dan, can we set this report up as a separate link on our webpage?
Sure.
So people can see it and go directly to it?
I can email it to you, so you have an electronic one, that makes it easy. Okay. All right, any questions about any of that, or,
No, it's perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you.
Were you gonna address any of the parking concerns on C tonight too, or?
Yeah, we can talk about that. So, separate from this portion, we started talking about prior to the meeting, beginning here. Just as we talked about the trailhead, the Lapham Peak folks are concerned about people parking along C. I know Mackenzie's done some enforcement with parking citations out there over the summer. With the pandemic coming, with State Park being closed for a period, I think that probably heightened some of that to where people are parking on C itself. And with there being no shoulder in that area, they're having to use a portion of that highway to park their car to keep a couple tires on it, so they're not off in the ditch. So again, I think that's another thing that the county, or excuse me, the state park is looking to have signage put out there probably permanently for no parking. But that'll be something we address with them directly, that they're gonna probably need to petition the county to do that as well. It could be separate or part of the discussion as far as if there's gonna be warning signs for the trailhead or not too. But that's been a concern that they've had there, and I think she's still having to address that issue now, because they've started going back there out there, correct?
Yeah, so this last weekend, they put, no parking, like temporary, kind of like the political signs, say no parking all day long. They were having issues because it was so nice out this last weekend, the parking lots were full. When I stopped in and talked with them the other day, they said they had twice during the day that they had completely shut the park down and not allow any more cars in because there was no parking spots, which is probably why they were parking on Cushing.
Right.
And then, parking on C until they got those signs out and had called, the sheriff's department a couple different times throughout the day, saying they were having issues with people parking, and then they emailed me personally as well, so.
The signs are still up at the end of Government Hill, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
So they still can't park down there to get in that way?
Not any issue with
Okay.
Aren't they permanent top up Government Hill?
Yeah, those are permanent.
Yeah, in the dead end, yeah, ever since the guardrails put up, yeah.
Yeah.
So that explains, I was there on Cushing Park, just every single street.
Yeah.
They're just lined up. And they park right on the street.
Cushing Park doesn't really have a.
Shoulder either.
So.
But that's different though, I think, so there, that could be one that you potentially would have the ability to do some signage changes there. I don't know what your policies or how your procedures are that way, if you just get a hold of the highway to have them just put them up, or if you guys have to do that by ordinance, I'm not sure how you folks work that way.
We'll have to look into it, but
What's up?
we will have to look into it, but yeah, it's a good option, because that road gets quite a bit of traffic too, and people go around the same speed as they do in Highway C on Cushing Park, so.
Well, and we get so many bikers that don't ride on the bike trail, and they're on Cushing Park. And people don't
Joggers.
expect them, and,
Yeah.
yeah, it's,
A lot of them talk about habits too to get over this stuff.
yep.
So.
So that's an ongoing concern, but again, I think we'll be addressing that more with the park, that if they're looking for some kind of assistance from the county there, that's probably gonna be them that needs to request that. As far as signage on C there, for no parking. Okay,
Anything else?
okay.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it. Appreciate everything you do, the whole department. All right, there is no unfinished business. Moving on to new business item 8A, discussion and possible action on the payment of an invoice from the Village of Neshota for $702.73 for reimbursement for the review of the Lake Country Fire and Rescue intermunicipal agreement. If everybody recalls, this was on our agenda for months. All
Oh,
of,
this is different.
Oh, it is?
no,
It's the same
No,
one.
same thing.
this is the same thing.
It's the same one. It's the one where we shared the cost between municipalities for the review.
This isn't the town, this isn't the Genesee and the Wales, is it?
This
Yeah.
is for all 7 communities.
This is
yeah.
for everybody.
This is for everybody. But
Yeah,
they
that-
split the cost with everybody because it was a new agreement. So it wasn't just for those 3. They decided to share it with all 7 communities, so. I spoke with the Neshota clerk, because we had waited so long and, kind of wondered why they sent us an invoice out of the blue without any, communication regarding this. They were waiting for all of the bills to come in from Macy's firm before they decided to send us this. I was hoping for a little better communication from Lake Country or from Neshota as far as just keeping us posted that this was still coming. But nevertheless, it came, so, it's up to the board as to what they want to do. I know they denied it, based on the fact that we hadn't received anything, but now that it's here, I leave it to you guys. She did say too that she thought it was an understanding that by signing the contract that we were also agreeing to pay this portion of, the agreement for the creating it and going through the different revisions from the community suggestions. That's just coming from the Neshota clerk. That's just one community, but again, they're on the hook for the bill, so.
You know, everybody knows my position on the fire department contract. It's interesting because with the failure of the referendum, we would be consolidating now, and I'd be fully in support of it. But I didn't like the contract. I didn't think it was well drafted, and there were many aspects of it I did not like. I think we had little ability to change it because we were brought in at such a late date. However, with all that said, these are our new partners. And my experience is that you express all your frustration through the process, but you, unlike our political world, you accept the process once it's concluded. So we're now members of Lake Country, and I would.
We all need to play nice in the sandbox, so we should just pay the bill.
I think we should pay the bill.
However, it is a little disappointing being
Mhm.
after the fact.
Yeah, I
But I
think,
agree.
yeah.
I agree.
Motion to approve the $702.73 to the Village of Neshota for the LCFR intermunicipal agreement revisions.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve a payment of $702.73 to the Village of Neshota for reimbursement for the review of the Lake Country Fire and Rescue intermunicipal agreement. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. I would have anticipated Supervisor Van Horden would have voted against it, but the motion would still pass. So discussion and possible action on the appointment of Steve Michaels to the Lake Country Fire and Rescue Commission. Mr. Michaels is here to join us. He, to the town's resources and work with the Fire Commission, the Lake Country Fire and Rescue Commission.
No, it's an impressive resume, so I think he's more than qualified. So I would move that we appoint him to the Fire and Rescue Commission.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to appoint Steve Michaels to the Lake Country Fire and Rescue Commission. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes unanimously. It's a 2-year term, so in your first meeting is,
Whether you knew that or
I
not.
don't know if you know.
your first meeting is tomorrow night at 6:30, I believe.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. Yep. And you may want to introduce yourself to
Interim.
yeah, the interim chief of the fire department here, Chief Hoppy.
Did I give you the Zoom information for that too? Okay, good. Awesome.
Were there any materials, Dan?
I believe you should have them. If you don't, I'll forward them to you before the end of the night. Yep.
All right, thank you. Thanks, Steve. You call me with any questions or, great. Moving on to 8C, discussion and possible action on the purchase of lockers for dorms in the Delafield Fire Station. Chief Hoppy.
Hello, good evening. I'm here before you once again to talk about repurposing some capital budget funds that were allocated for 2020 on items the fire department no longer needs to purchase and would like to purchase some different items to make the building more useful in the dorm space for the future full-time individuals that are going to be occupying that space more frequently, and some part-time individuals that are going to have assigned dorm rooms instead of individuals floating in and out of dorm rooms. We're looking to purchase purpose-built lockers for the fire service that people can hold their sleeping gear there, their bath towels, their change of clothes, everything that they would kind of have to otherwise carry around in their car between shifts. We would like them to store it and stash it in the station under lock and key in their assigned dorm room. So we got a couple different proposals and options. The fire department committee that was working on this settled on a company that is called lockers.com, where we could outfit all of the rooms, get a little end table, get some underbed storage, all for around $11,275. And so that is what I'm before you to ask tonight, that you allow us to purchase that in place of our standard replacement. I think I mentioned this last time, we were gonna outfit some individuals with newer turnout gear. That's no longer our issue, that's Lake Country's. We were gonna purchase some new hose to replace some stuff that's antiquated and needs to be replaced. It's no longer our issue, Lake Country's gonna manage that. So it is money that I feel is available and better spent on lockers for the dorm rooms. If there are any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to answer them.
What's the exact amount again, Mark?
The exact amount, pardon, is that what you said?
Yeah, the exact amount.
Oh, $11,275. And again, that covers lockers for the dorm rooms, some underbed storage, a little desk to fit to the bed. The larger desk has to come out, and a smaller one has to go in, since we're putting now more lockers in each room instead of just the one that's in there now.
Any questions for Chief Hoppy? Okay, thanks. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you for the time.
Just a general overview, I called Anthony, I always butcher his name, Archibus, or Arbugius. He's a town, he and Pete Van Horn are town representatives to the Fire Commission Board, which this subject goes under his domain. Originally, he was on the fence on this, but in meeting with Matt and Mark, he was persuaded that it's actually a very good expenditure of our funds. It'll make I talked to him this evening at the latest, and he says it'll make the town more ready for the consolidation, and we'll hit the ground more equipped in providing better service to our residents. So with that in mind, he's endorsing the expense, and I have a lot of faith in his opinion, so I would support his opinion.
Well, it's the right thing to do. I mean, there are gonna be some of our, personnel that are gonna benefit from it too, and Lake Country in general. It just needs to be done, so.
Yeah.
I move that we approve the purchase of the lockers for $11,275 for the fire department.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the expenditure of $11,275 for the lockers for the firehouse. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Moving on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do.
Discussion and possible action on the revised contract language with Grota Appraisals LLC for maintenance and assessment records and application of use values from 2021 to 2023. Dan, you want to give us an overview?
Yeah, just a general update. The attorney recommended some changes which are included in your packet, the original version. Mike Rota came back and kind of redlined some of those changes, kind of going back to an issue that came up about 10 years ago. I believe.
2012.
Yeah, 2012. And I did talk to Mike over the phone. Mike wasn't necessarily comfortable with all the changes that our attorney had suggested. And his concern was just liability on his part. He thought that, open records request is a big thing for the town, and that a little simpler language, I guess, that other attorneys, including Mark, or Hamas, had suggested from the town of Brookfield, would essentially do the same thing. There is a few changes to number, I guess it would be 12, on the one that I presented to you. So you can kind of compare what was presented originally to what is now. Take a look at that, but other changes that we've placed on here, number 7, I believe. Number 7 is just ensuring that he performs the Board of Review prior to the end of June of each year, so we'll have that in the contract, so we don't have another August meeting. And then just some language on the Exhibit A, we actually added that last paragraph, and that is directly from what Attorney Hammis had added on the contract with the town of Brookfield, which Brookfield felt comfortable as far as meeting those open records requests, and Ron and I kind of discussed it earlier today and agree as well, so. Kind of a general overview, and I think we don't really want to get this caught between his attorney and our attorney going back and forth. There's they cover so many municipalities, most of which are covered by the general agreement that he proposes. Only 2 communities have actually requested something specific like this, and this language is used for both. So anything beyond that, we would be in new territory for Mike, and I don't know if it's necessary. So, and this would be going against what our attorney has suggested. So that's why we're back here. I know we approved this previously, so.
The bottom line is, our attorney, Eric, recommends some language based on an experience he had with Grota's company back in 2012. Grota would not accept that language, and he came back and offered language, and Dan and I sort of mixed and matched. So it's more than what Grota offered. The proposal before the board now is more than what Grota offered, but less than what Eric wants. I'm comfortable with the small degree of risk that the town is taking on by not following everything that Eric's recommending. But I also believe that the contract as drafted now affords enough adequate protection for the town, and more protection than most other municipalities. It's, the ones we've looked at, Lisbon and because we've gotten actual copies of their agreements. So it's kind of a compromise between the two.
Novel concept.
I'm sorry?
It's a novel concept. Compromise.
Yeah.
Well, and it's better than what we have, because currently no one can find a contract for our current assessor, so.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
I haven't heard about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That was,
we can't find anything, so.
Sweet.
so,
no, I move that we approve the contract with the changes as presented.
I second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the contract with Grota Appraisals LLC for maintenance of assessment records and application of use values from 2021 to 2023 as amended and presented in tonight's package. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Dan, if you'd like to, I can let Eric know, or you can let Eric know. Just send
How
me-
about you let Eric know, and I'll let,
I'll let Eric know, you let
I'll
Grota
let our
know.
current assessor know, yeah. Sounds fair.
That's right.
Good compromise.
Another compromise. 8E, discussion and possible action on the resignation of Supervisor Cooley from the town board. Is his letter in the package?
It is not.
It isn't? Oh.
No.
It was
in the-
emailed to
It was
us.
emailed,
Oh,
but
I
it's not
emailed it
here.
separately,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So as you all know, Mr. Supervisor Cooley is leaving the state.
He is.
Yeah, he's leaving the state. So his letter of resignation is presented to the board according to statute, and it would be effective, if I recall correctly.
15th.
15th.
January.
Yeah, January 15th.
Correct.
We're going to miss Supervisor Cooley. I would prefer not to appoint somebody, but leave it as an open position until the election. And just the 4 of us can work through anything that comes up. And then we'll have the election in April that would put in a new supervisor and bring back Mr. Kranik. So,
Wait, when do, people have to,
December 1st,
Well, they
they
give-
can start, going through their.
Circulating nomination
yeah,
papers.
circulating December 1st, so.
oh, wow, okay, and it has to be in by?
the 7th?
January 5th. or
Fifth?
something,
Okay.
around there. I'm starting the candidacy packets for, well, I guess you and Ron. So,
Just get through the election.
yeah, we're almost there. I started, we'll get it done hopefully by, mid-November, so, which is in 4 days.
Yeah, because they can't even come and request it till the 1st of December, right?
They can't
They
circulate.
can have,
They can have it, they can't circulate for
Correct.
signatures until after the
Right.
1st of December.
and all those papers are on the Wisconsin Election Commission website.
Exactly.
Now, there are some forms, I'm sure Dan will explain to you.
Non-declaration of candidacy.
Yeah, you have to fill out to resign. You can't just say I'm
Can't just
resigning.
walk away.
No, you gotta fill out some forms.
Can't just fade off into the sunset.
And isn't there a fee? Don't we charge them?
Oh, do we need a motion to accept his resignation,
Is it
or?
$400,000
Yes, we
fee?
need a motion to accept it, and the caveat is, the motion should say accepted effective
January
January
15th.
15th. So,
Well, I'd like to thank Supervisor Cooley for his years of service to the town. It's a sad day, but I will make a motion to accept the resignation of Supervisor William Cooley, effective January 15th, 2021.
I'll second.
all right, I have a motion and a second to accept the resignation of Supervisor Cooley effective January 15th, 2021. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
I abstain.
Well, yeah, you abstain.
Really, a lot of knowledge leaving, I've seen,
Nah, not that much.
a lot of years.
It's pretty vacant up here.
So much required.
All right, discussion possible action, discussion possible action to enter an agreement with CenturyLink Communications LLC, DBA Lumen Technologies Group for dedicated internet and voice services in Town Hall.
Didn't we do this already?
No, we did the Grota one already, this one.
No, didn't we already say,
talked about
like,
it last
We
like,
talked about it.
we talked, we didn't, oh, we didn't,
No.
no.
Yeah. Actually, Jamie, are we recording this meeting?
Yes.
Yeah. So, everybody behave.
Too late.
So, yeah, the last time we voted on actually the camera system, I think is maybe what you were referring to.
Is that
This-
what, okay.
Yeah, this is for fiber network, fiber and phone. There were some suggestions by the attorney, which you can find, I think it's the very last page of your packet. So we did contact Lumen and address those issues. One being that there was not a master service agreement, which they did provide in your new packet of materials. It's on the last pages there. There was also the city of Delafield was on the initial one, which now they did update to the town of Delafield. And one of the attorney's comments was referring back to, I think, a service charge that was on their website that didn't seem stable enough, because anybody can just update a website. So they did state that they were gonna get a PDF version of those fees. And I apologize, I just printed this off about 45 minutes before the meeting, so I don't know if that was actually included in here or not. Jamie, did you see that by chance?
I did not.
So that might be something. Either way, if you guys do act to approve this tonight, I think it might be, you know, best to be subject to if the attorney has any concerns about the master services agreement that he was sent over earlier today and is looking over. So that's really all I had. Jamie, I don't know if you had anything additional to add.
No, I wanna make sure that there's no questions about what it is that you're actually upgrading and downgrading to. We're reducing phone service, but upgrading internet service, so I can answer any questions or explain that briefly if needed. But otherwise, the information is there in the packet, and I trust that Dan and Mr. Larson reviewed the agreements, and I don't have anything to say specifically about that.
I don't have anything further. I think me and Jamie, he kind of talked about the phone reduction, that, you know, we were at a certain level because it just was cost beneficial for us to have those many lines, but they weren't necessary. And we felt comfortable with going down to, I believe it was reduced to 10. And that will be just fine, so.
And 10 will work with the new server, not service, but whatever upstairs.
The
So the internet service is basically, we have a single DSL, same service like you'd have 10 years ago into your house. That's what we have upstairs for internet service, so that will come and be ripped out, and they will install a fiber termination, and then we will plug the cable that was into their existing DSL modem into that other customer premise equipment, so there will be no hardware changes required to upgrade the internet. The phone system, again, we're keeping the same physical circuit, the same handoff to the phone system. We're just reducing the number of available channels from 23 voice channels, which we obviously don't need here. I've never used anywhere near 23 at the same time. We're reducing down to 10. And everything else about the phone lines that are for like the fire alarm, the elevator, all that stuff all stays the same. This is just reducing the number of lines that are delivered over that one digital channel that we originally had 23 channels.
So the elevator and fire alarm are not included in the 10?
Correct. It's a separate account that is it's not bundled services. Those are analog lines that are required by code.
Okay.
What do you see as the life expectancy of this setup? When would we have to address this issue again?
So the phone system, the phone system itself is a separate entity. It's one that we've already stopped paying maintenance and upgrades on, kind of in anticipation that as it gets to be 6 and 7 years old, that it might start to approach the life expectancy of that system. At that time, there's enough cloud offerings and things out there that we may not have to replace it in kind. You may be able to just migrate to a completely hosted phone system. The service, 200 megabits up and down, is pretty good. There's certainly room to go up in the future, but I think for the foreseeable future, I think at least for the next 5 years or more, 200 megs up and down should be plenty of bandwidth for the things that we'll be doing out of this facility. Now, if some radical change comes along with live video being used, in multiple different places throughout the building for telework or, conferencing that lasts all day or something, maybe we have to revisit it, but I don't see that happening. In terms of the phone lines coming in, if we were to make a change away from the on-premise phone system and move to some hosted solution, the need for that service might just go away. So you're locked in, I guess, with CenturyLink for 3 years, but I have to assume that if you were to want to migrate away from the on-premise phone system, the hardware that's upstairs, if you went with CenturyLink, I'm sure they would migrate you to one of their hosted platforms.
Sure.
Without penalty, but obviously we'd have to work all that out. But
Sure.
I think you're going to be set for. I'd throw a number 5 years out there. I would.
That's
expect
fine.
you would-
That's in technology, that's a long time.
Yeah.
And this will allow us to host our meetings and broadcast them on YouTube or whatever mechanism we're gonna do it. And then
Correct.
save them to our website.
Yeah, so tonight we are streaming for the first time privately just to our channel on YouTube, just so we can assess the quality of the video. We know that we're limited on the bandwidth. Once we get this upgrade, we're gonna get 100 times more upbound bandwidth from the building to the internet, and we'll be able to stream in full HD, and it'll be great quality. Right now, we're streaming in basically the equivalent of your TV over the air analog TV
Sure.
from 20 years ago. So plenty of bandwidth to do those upbound streams, as well as have people streaming video for trainings and video conferences and all that stuff on the download side.
And implementation, when will the project be completed?
So that is completely dependent on when CenturyLink or Lumen can get the installation done. As we've discussed before, the fiber itself is already in the building. When we constructed the building, we worked with them to actually get it trenched in. It's all the way run through the building. It runs upstairs already. So a lot of the work that they would normally have to do should not be required, and they should be able to just walk in with their equipment and make some terminations. They've suggested that there are some things that have to be done outside of the building, but the fiber is running literally 200 yards across the parking lot to their hut. So I'm hoping that by the end of the year, if we approve this tonight, that this is done by the end of the year.
Should the contract address a specific date by?
I do not see that in here. I have not looked for it specifically, but I have not run across.
In our discussions, they said it was 60 to 90 days based on when we signed the contract.
Is that in the contract? I didn't review the contract in that detail. I think we may want to add a timeframe, 60 to 90 days if they, I'm fine with that, if that's, the sooner the better.
Well, the sooner the better.
Well,
Definitely
especially
we-
with what's coming up with the
Yeah,
Thomas
no,
Farm
we
and
definitely want
everything
it
else.
sooner than, I mean, a lot of the stuff they have to do is on their back end, so it's a matter of them getting their project managers and everybody lined up to get the equipment installed, so.
Is there, what, this is your field, so do you want to put in 60, 90, or how many days do you want to give them?
Well, I mean, I'd like them to do it like within 60 days, but it's, you know, we only have so many hammers, so.
If I could, one thing we might approach them about, they should be able to deliver us more than the 20 by 2 that we're getting over the current DSL circuit. So if you do get an approved agreement in place, we may be able to get them to at least up our current bandwidth on the DSL circuit to something that is a little bit more amenable to video streaming, since that's something we want to do. We have the technology in place and it would serve the residents of the town and not have to come out and view the meetings in person. Again, they should be able to do that with, you know,
Just flipping
on their
switches,
keyboard
yeah.
without having to.
As long as there's no cost to the town, I'm fine with that.
Right, and so I think that's just something we'd have to talk to them about. If it's gonna be longer than that 60 days, maybe we can make a concession, or they can make a concession with us to do that for us in the interim. Technology-wise, it should be fine. I don't know what they would do with an agreement on it.
Well, is the board comfortable with a motion that gives Dan the ability to negotiate a time frame
Yeah,
that's acceptable?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, then we don't have to be specific, we just say.
No,
Dan.
I move that we approve the contract with Lumen for the fiber and the telephone, contingent on attorney review of the master service agreement and giving the town administrator the authority to negotiate a timeframe for execution and completion of the project.
I'll second.
Excellent. Well worded. I have a motion and a second to approve the contract per the terms of the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. So now we have a contract.
I'm done.
This is a big step for the town.
Ed did a lot of, well, Jamie tried to reach out quite a bit with, and they were a
Well, you
little
pulled-
difficult, but
You pulled some weight to get
yeah,
that.
Ed pulled out the big guns, so
Yeah.
Awesome.
he must have scared him.
Thank you.
Okay, announcements and planning items. Plan Commission is, gosh, it's tomorrow, November 11th, 6:30. Dan, it says the public hearing for the budget is Wednesday, November 18th, but I believe it's at 5:30, not 6:30.
Correct.
This is 6:30.
And
Yeah.
update that, Dan.
This has to be
Yeah.
modified.
Yeah.
It's actually at 5:30.
Yep.
And the town board, it's not at 6:30, it's immediately following the,
The public hearing.
the public hearing.
So what,
Public
So-
hearing?
do we
Budget
anticipate
public hearing.
meeting on the 24th?
We're not having a meeting on the
So the-
24th?
No,
That's what,
Meeting on Wednesday, we're gonna have, the plan is to have the town board meeting right after the budget public hearing, so that way.
On
we
the
don't have
18th.
to- Right, so that way we don't have to have an additional meeting the following week before,
yeah.
oh, so the 24th meeting is not,
I understand you may have an out-of-town conflict.
Well, and I don't know, did you all hear, maybe on your way here tonight, that Governor Evers, came out, he signed something advising people to stay home.
Yeah, the sheriff said it was all shall, or it was all encouragement, it's not a. it's-
Yes, exactly, so
Yeah.
I don't know, like, when we were talking about some potential upcoming meetings, I don't know what that means for us, if they're just advising, obviously.
well, they're advising, but I think it was similar to what had occurred last time. Public officials, I would assume, are exempt from that,
Right.
so I think,
Yeah.
we should still plan on meeting for the public hearing, but we can, depending on what the quality of the video is, stream that the budget public hearing, and we'll space people out far enough for the ones that do show. I'm anticipating.
We'll get rid of these tables and go back to where it was like in
Just
May and
just the
June.
chairs.
yeah.
Okay.
6 or 8 feet difference, distance. So the budget meeting is on the 18th at 5:30, and the town board meeting excuse me, is immediately following that meeting. And there is no town board meeting on the 24th.
Just kidding.
These masks make me dry. Any other discussion?
So 24th moving to 18th.
Yeah, I think that would be just fine.
Well, and it would
We'd
be
have
nice
meet.
to give our administrator an evening,
A what?
Thanksgiving week, not have an evening meeting.
That would be nice.
Let's not start being nice to our
Why would we start that?
Yeah, right. Well, the other thing I wanted to mention, Tim had mentioned he only has one item up for the plan commission meeting for December, which would be December 1st. So his thought was that we could move the plan commission meeting to December 8th before the town board meeting at around 6 o'clock to handle this one agenda item. And then that way the board can just vote on it after. It's a simple CSM, so I don't know if the board would object to that.
Talk about it next week.
Well, yeah, I can talk about it tomorrow at the plan commission meeting, so.
That works.
That'd be a
Makes sense.
nice
Yeah.
evening off for you, or not to be here.
Okay,
All right, super.
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion in a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. Dan, I've signed this contract with Howard,
Okay, good, I'll get that over to him.
and I can stop by anytime to sign the agreement with Lynn.
Yeah, I'm gonna email them back and talk about, some timeframe, negotiations for this, and then also, if Eric gets back to that master services agreement, I may just call him and